Facing same old problems every day makes me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I've got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
Oh, you know, we need them. We definitely need strategies for living, that is. Are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
I'm ready today.
Yeah, I knew you would be. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome into Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillan. She is psychotherapist, BLPC Lauren Leon McMillan. You know, I have more questions than I have answers today, Lauren.
Well, don't we all?
Well, especially with regard to a topic that probably doesn't get talked about enough.
No, and we need to.
And that is teen depression. You know, the questions that I have are, how bad is it? Mm-hmm. And, you know, how much is it being fed by gaming, social media? You know, how much of that puts kids at risk?
Yeah, the entire landscape has changed.
Yeah,
drastically.
and it's changing. It's changing as we speak. Mm-hmm. So I'm delighted that today we have as our life strategist the author of Teen Depression Gone Viral. Mm. She is Dr. Meredith E. Gansner, and I think this is a book. I think this is a book whose time is now, mm-hmm. and so we're going to find out the warning signs of adolescent depression. We're going to talk about when social media and gaming habits kind of cross the line into putting our kids at risk, and how you can keep your teen healthy and safe without taking a sledgehammer to all their devices. So
it's a healthy balance.
yeah, we've got a lot to learn, and we'll be passing out sledgehammers after the program. No, I'm kidding. So, Dr. Meredith Gansner today here on Strategies for Living, folks. Thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate our sponsors making it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Pintail Roofing, and Learning RX, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, and Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of The Godfather, alligator Italian sausage, and some pretty good muffies too. Back in a moment to meet our life strategist, Dr. Meredith E. Gansner, here on Strategies for Living. Be right back.
Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem dry. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan. Let's welcome into the program now our life strategist, Dr. Meredith E. Gansner. She is an attending child psychiatrist at Boston Children's Hospital and instructor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. Her award-winning research focuses on adolescent mental health and problematic digital media use. Dr. Meredith Gansner, welcome into Strategies for Living.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Love this new book,
Yes.
Teen Depression Gone Viral, Why Kids Are More Vulnerable Than Ever, and How You Can Protect Your Child's Health and Happiness. You can find that book wherever you buy books, and I hope you will if you have a teen in your life that you're raising, or you are the grandparent of a teen. This is something we all need to know more about, isn't it, Dr. Meredith?
Absolutely. I mean, I would argue that I probably even need to know more about it too. As a field, we're still trying to learn as much as we can about mental illness, and especially now in this age of social media.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to know the what's and the whys of adolescent depression, especially. Does depression present the same in adolescence as we see it in the adult population? Is there a difference? Is the definition and diagnosis same, different, or what do we need to know about that?
Yeah, so they are pretty similar. Most of the diagnostic criteria for adults for depression is relatively the same as those for children that we use. But it can look slightly different. And one of the biggest differences is irritability. And that's a tough one, because if you've ever met a teenager, they're not known for, being kind and calm, content with everything that you provide for them, right? There's never any sarcasm.
No.
No,
and so
never.
it can be so hard for parents, right? They see their teen struggling and maybe more irritable, but a lot of parents sometimes think that that's them sort of being normal adolescents, and they don't want to think that this could be something that's more serious, like depression.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest differences to pay attention to. And I think one of the other challenges now in this age of screens is that withdrawal and isolation has long been a sign that something might be afoot in terms of a depressive disorder. And unfortunately, with teens now spending an increased amount of time in their rooms, parents might assume, oh, well, they're socializing online, or they're doing other things with their friends, when in fact it's possible that their child is just kind of holed up alone, scrolling through social media on their phone. So it can be perhaps easier now even to miss depressive symptoms than before.
Is there a way, Dr. Meredith, that you can be sure that you're dealing with depression in your teenager?
Yeah, I wish there was an absolutely 100% foolproof test that we could use, like an imaging test or a blood test, and that just doesn't exist, unfortunately. So we really are, as mental health professionals, trying to kind of craft together all these different clues that say, okay, this is very likely a depressive illness. And unfortunately, sometimes a teenager doesn't even realize that they're depressed or is having those feelings. They're
Right.
really hard feelings to have to acknowledge.
Right.
And so I think it's a longer process of diagnosis than I think many parents are aware of. It's not something that we can always say with 100% certainty, this is depression, no doubt. Sometimes it can take a while for it to become clear that that's what this is.
Right. Now, the thing is, even from the beginning of the book, you give us things, that you take us by the hand and move us through this, because this is not an easy thing.
Mm-mm.
One of the things that you talk about is you talk about trusting your gut. You talk about some other things that could be going on. And you talk about a zebra diagnosis. What's a zebra diagnosis?
Yeah, so in medicine, we often refer to zebra diagnoses as diagnoses that are not very common and are pretty rare, and that we don't see them as commonly as, in a medical illness, you'd think things like high blood pressure or, even diabetes, things that you see pretty commonly. But there are also rare illnesses in psychiatry as well. And interestingly, now with social media, there has been a bit of a increased interest in some of those rarer zebra diagnoses in terms of thinking that people might actually have them when maybe they don't. So things like dissociative identity disorder, which is where a person has sort of multiple parts to them. It was formerly referred to as multiple personality disorder.
Right.
Sometimes a lot of teens may think that they have autism, and certainly autism is not uncommon, but there are many teens now who do think that they have autism, who don't actually have features of the diagnosis because of oftentimes time they spend online and seeing other people who are sort of promoting those diagnoses in a way that may be not actually in line with the facts about those illnesses.
Right.
So that's been something that we've been seeing more and more of, especially since the pandemic.
How does this form? How does this typically develop, Dr. Meredith?
Yes. So I wish that we would honestly do more studies. There are a lot of very interesting studies that have been done in sort of different zebra diagnoses that are cropping up. So another one that many people have heard of is tic disorder. A lot of people were suddenly saying, okay, I have tic disorder, when in fact that they did not. And the thinking is that many of these teens, usually teens and young adults, the vast majority, they probably have some underlying psychiatric disorder, maybe anxiety, depression, more common psychiatric disorders for sure. And that they will see these social media influencers online who are talking about their struggles with these disorders like tic disorder or dissociative identity disorder, and they will relate to some of the symptoms that those individuals online are describing. And they develop these very I think cohesive, warm, accepting communities, which is wonderful. I mean, as a psychiatrist, that's amazing. It's actually a very good part of social media. I'll say that's a plus.
Right.
But unfortunately, they don't really have. There's not the same kind of platform for individuals with anxiety and depression. And so if you are struggling with a kind of more common mental illness, it can potentially feel better to be part of this zebra diagnosis group where you have a community and you have other people who are just like you. And there isn't a sense as much, I think, with those illnesses of like, I have to treat this. I have to, it's something you live with. It is part of your identity, and we don't have excellent treatments for dissociative identity disorder and tic disorder, although they can be treated. And so I think there's something about anxiety and depression that maybe is harder for teenagers to accept. And so in having those diagnoses, I've actually had patients say, no, I can't just have depression. Like I have something more, right? Like, and it's incredible that we've come to that point where a lot of teenagers are wanting these different kind of more exotic sounding diseases because of what they see online, and I think what it promises them in terms of connection to others and feeling special about themselves, which is so hard for so many kids, especially with depression.
So what's the typical, or is there such a thing nowadays? I mean, come on, doc, give me the pill. We want that, don't we? I mean, we want the quick fix, and yet I kind of anticipate what you're about to tell me, but go ahead.
Oh, do we? I know. Oh, I think everywhere, honestly, in the entire medical field, everyone wants a quick fix. And by and large, so many of our diseases, no matter if they be diseases of the brain or the heart or thyroid issues, there's so many things that we wish we had an absolute quick fix to. And even if we do have one medication that we can take, sometimes it doesn't resolve all of the symptoms. And that's true with depression too, and that we have medications. The most common ones are called SSRIs. They help by kind of increasing the amount of serotonin that our brain is exposed to, which has been implicated in depression. But as my book says, there are a lot more chemicals in the body that we need to start paying attention to as well that might play a role in the process of depression. And so we don't have that kind of one size fits all treatment. And so right now we recommend sort of a host of different things, including lifestyle changes, like making sure that sleep and eating habits are optimized and that there's access to exercise, or at least getting out of the house, right? We want to make sure that kids have a connection to people that they can talk to through therapy, and especially structured therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy. And then certainly if the symptoms are significant enough, actually that's when we would usually recommend medications, because when symptoms are severe, that tends to be when the medication actually is most helpful.
Right.
Okay. So as we move into this today, I want to talk about, you've touched on the treatment and what can be offered there, the treatment landscape. But I also think we need to get into some of the riskier things that can come along, and how we keep our teens safe from suicidal problems and thinking and action and even self-injury. And so we'll tackle all of that. If it's not hard enough to, as you have said earlier, talk about the irritability that kind of comes with the territory. Teen Depression Gone Viral. That's the name of the book. Got to get this. Dr. Meredith Gansner, our life strategist today, here on Strategies for a Living. Much more to learn, much more to come. Stay with us.
From the bayou to your table, we're keeping it alive with flavors from the family, passed down to survive. The Godfather's here with a twist in the tail, alligator Italian sausage, and it sure won't fail. It's the boss of the bayou, a taste you can't refuse. Italian tradition, Cajun infused. Godfather sausage, bold and true. But Andres bringing the bayou to you.
Get the Godfather alligator Italian sausage only at Fertitta's Delicatessen, 1124 Fairfield Avenue in Shreveport. Pick up a muffy while you're there. The Godfather alligator Italian sausage. It's a taste you can't refuse. Sold only at Fertitta's, 1124 Fairfield Avenue in Shreveport. Dealing with stress, pain, feel like you're running out of options? When your life is balanced, wellness is a given. True wellness is holistic. It's about the mind, the body, and the spirit, all in balance. Now, there's a place right here in Shreveport that's all about helping us achieve peak mental, emotional, and physical health. The Balanced Life, 117 Kings Highway, right next door to Strawn's. Come see and feel the difference getting your life in balance can be. Many of your friends and neighbors have already learned the difference less stress and pain mean in their lives. You can book a discovery session right now online, thebalancedlife.us. All you've got to lose is stress, pain, or maybe both. Come see and feel for yourself the real difference balanced wellness makes. The Balanced Life Wellness Center, 117 Kings Highway in Shreveport, next door to Strawn's. Thebalancedlife.us.
Zoning out, let's take a ride. Healthy mind and heart open wide. Every step with spirit as our guide. Here on Strategies for Living. Mind, body, spirit, and the groove. Relationships smooth as ocean waves.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan, with our life strategist today, the author of Teen Depression Gone Viral. She is Dr. Meredith Gansner. And Lauren, it strikes me that some people may be listening to us right now and they won't, maybe they're coming and going in their car and they want to listen to the whole episode.
Yeah.
You've got some great news, don't you?
I've got definite ways you can do that.
Yeah?
I've got the YouTube channel.
Yep.
And now, we are there on podcast platforms everywhere.
Oh, okay. So Strategies for Living.
On your favorite platform.
At your favorite podcast platform.
Look us up, follow, subscribe.
Pass the word.
Share the news, yeah.
There you go. Dr. Meredith Gansner with us today, and the book is Teen Depression Gone Viral. It's an important book, and I hope you will get a copy of it. So what do we need to know as we look at the different treatment options, Dr. Meredith? And, of course, this is going to vary from community to community, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that the most important thing to know about treating depression, and I would say this goes for adults too, is that there is no one correct treatment for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's treatment path is going to look a little bit different. And maybe there might be 1 in a million, 2 treatment plans that they're the exact same, but the vast majority of treatment plans are going to look different, right? Because every person is different. And so it may be that for some families, they find that when their child is really ill at the beginning, maybe they can't get out of bed, they really can't eat much, they are at a place where perhaps taking medication is the only thing that they are able to do at that point, and maybe get out of bed for a small walk once a day, and that's okay. That's totally fine. And if parents are saying well, they just all they'll eat is something that's just not very good for them, a cookie or something, it's better than nothing, right? We know eating healthfully would be better overall, and eating 3 balanced meals a day, sure. But I think the most important thing parents can just keep in mind is that it can take a while and baby steps, and they don't have to get all of the perfect treatment options right in place all at once. I mean, that would just be incredibly overwhelming for so many teenagers and parents. And so I think when parents think about how to help their child, especially if they're getting multiple streams of information about, they need to be doing this kind of exercise, or getting this kind of UV light exposure, and all these different factors, parents are so scared that they try to put all those into place at once at the same time. And the child, unfortunately, is not at a point where they are at all able to do that. And so we will see conflict between the parents and the child. Both sides, love each other so much, but they have this incredibly tense relationship because they're just kind of pushing and pulling. And if parents can just try to take a step back and a deep breath, I know it's hard, but just recognizing that, they as parents are doing a great job. Their kid is doing the best that they can, and it just may take baby steps and kind of piece by piece to figure out what works.
Right. You mentioned the last segment, you began to mention the importance of therapy, psychotherapy, counseling. Yep. But again, this is one area that I think you do a great job in the book. Again, the book is Teen Depression Gone Viral. It's not that in and of itself can be confusing, because you've got you've got CBT, you've got family therapy, you've got supportive therapy, you've got psychodrama therapy, you've got play therapy. And we talk a lot about this here on Strategies, and it can be in and of itself, it can be daunting, to look at the landscape. Again, that may be available in your community. What's the starting point?
Yeah, so, I mean, this may be a hot take, but honestly, I think that the starting point is just find a therapist that your child will go see. That's, I think, the most important starting point. I absolutely respect that there is research out there highlighting benefits of specific types of psychotherapy.
Right.
But and unfortunately, I think until as a country, our mental health system becomes more robust everywhere, we just don't have access to all those treatments as expediently as we really need to. And so really better than your child just kind of sitting at home, not seeing anybody, or perhaps you find a therapist that is able to do CBT, but your child does not connect with them at all and then starts refusing to go. That's absolutely no help. That's even less help.
Yeah.
And so this is where I think, parents, going back to it's okay, take a deep breath. They just need to start somewhere. And then most therapists are trained in many different modalities. And so therapists can even sometimes start to sort of bring in other pieces of other types of treatments as they see fit throughout a therapy kind of course, as best they can. I mean, therapists have so many years of experience with very recalcitrant teenagers. And so, they're used to teenagers not wanting to see them, or adults not wanting to talk to them. And so they oftentimes have some pretty impressive tools up their sleeves to get people to engage.
Yeah, I've gotten this question before. I bet you have too. And that is it possible for counseling or psychotherapy alone to manage depression? And even, I hate to use the C word, cure word, but is it possible? Is it possible?
Yeah, it could be. It honestly could be for some people, but we don't have good evidence right now suggesting that alone is the best treatment to. The C word's tough because, again, most depressive episodes do come back. There aren't many individuals who have one depressive episode and then don't have a recurrence, unfortunately. Right. But in terms of bringing to a close an end of depression or a depressive episode maybe sooner than otherwise would be, we don't have evidence that therapy alone is the best option for that. Yeah. But which isn't to say that it can't happen, but we just don't really have that evidence there yet.
Right. What are the newer medications? You mentioned the old standard SSRIs that a lot of people know about. Yeah. It seems like, though, that in the, with drugs and pharmaceuticals, there's always ongoing research. What's the newest? What's the latest in terms of what's coming down the pike?
Yeah, so there are sort of two really big ones that have gotten attention in the last decade or so that for adults, I think are far more established, right? That's always the way it is. These treatments tend to be used in adults way longer than for kids, because with kids, right, you want to be much more strict about your testing rules and careful. So thinking about first just new kind of chemical treatments or medication treatments. So things like ketamine, for example. S-ketamine is used now far more frequently for adults in depression, although I still think that we have a ways to go in terms of actually getting that I think access better than where it currently is. And then also thinking about kind of neuromodulatory treatments, so thinking about interventions that are kind of outside the box, like TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. That's where you actually have a magnet that can go over part of your brain and actually helps to ideally can change the brain and the brain functioning in that area to help relieve depressive symptoms, and can be used for other psychiatric illnesses as well. And there aren't tons of studies yet in teens looking at these treatments for depression, but certainly they are being done. And so it can't be long before I think we can get some increased amount of adoption, or at least insurance also approval of these treatments for kids and minors.
When you've made the determination, okay, well, we need to try the medication route, what are the main things that people need to understand as they're beginning the medication process, Dr. Meredith?
that it takes time, right? I feel like I'm probably making so many people frustrated, and with my book too. And I'm like, everything just takes time, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is. We know for SSRIs in particular, even though we think that serotonin actually increases pretty soon after you start taking the medication, the medication really doesn't seem to become most effective until several weeks later. And so parents definitely have to keep this in mind, both to just try to, again, calm themselves and say, it's okay, you aren't going to notice an immediate change, but also because sometimes we do see something, especially in teens, called the placebo effect, where teens will take something like a medication and they will suddenly have a miraculous improvement in their symptoms, and depression is gone. And so this is problematic for two reasons. The first being that oftentimes the teenager will say, hey, I'm better, I'm cured, and they'll stop taking the medication, which is absolutely not what we want. And then also because, secondly, the parents may see the improvement in symptoms and understandably say, oh, that's fantastic, and now they're better, and the episode of depression is resolved, when in fact that wasn't the case. It was due to this kind of, again, we call it the placebo effect, kind of thinking a medication or something's working when actually it's not quite working yet. Just by taking the medication itself, it kind of gives this boost of confidence, right, that it's doing something, that it's helping them. And it's actually a lot stronger in terms of improving symptoms than one might think, especially for teens and young people. So I definitely try to caution both child and parent about those issues at the beginning of treatment, just so they don't suddenly stop taking the medication, or so that parents don't feel disappointed when it seems like initially the medication worked really well, and then unfortunately the symptoms seem to come right back.
Right.
There is so much in this book. It's called Teen Depression Gone Viral, Why Kids Are More Vulnerable Than Ever, and How You Can Protect Your Child's Health and Happiness. The book is out from your favorite bookseller from Guilford Press, and Dr. Meredith Gansner is our life strategist today. We're learning about depression, teen depression, gone viral today here on Strategies for Living. More to learn, more to come. Stay with us. We'll be back. Hey, let's talk about the Robinson Film Center. You know, I say it a lot. There's no place like the Robinson.
Absolutely, there is not.
617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. You've got so much. You got the movies. You got Abby Singer's Bistro on the second floor of RFC, open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Saturday.
Newly remodeled.
Absolutely. Great menu. RobinsonFilmCenter.org is the way you check it all out. You can go to RobinsonFilmCenter.org at any time and find out what movies are showing. Here's the deal. You want to join the crowd, join the fun, become a member. When you become a member, you become a star. You get discounts on movies, you get concession upgrades, you get bistro deals. RFC, 617 Texas Street in downtown Shreveport. I'll say it again. There's no place like the Robinson.
There is not, and I'm glad we have one right here.
Absolutely. The RobinsonFilmCenter.org.
Reading begins not in the classroom, but in your child's brain. I'm Donisa Walker with Learning RX Shreveport. If your child struggles to read, maybe he or she has trouble focusing or comprehending, Learning RX Shreveport offers a science solution to reading problems, working one-on-one with your child, targeting his or her reading skills. Today, call Learning RX Shreveport. Make an appointment to have your child assessed. I know you want to help your child, so does Learning RX Shreveport.
We're getting a powerful dose today.
Aren't we?
Yeah, we really are. And one that is, we all need more education. We need to know more about teen depression. And so we've got the author of Teen Depression Gone Viral. She is Dr. Meredith E. Gansner. And you can find the book from Guilford Press at your favorite bookseller. And I hope you will if you are a parent, if you are a grandparent, this you have
Couldn't
done
be a more important topic.
yeah,
or
and
read
you've-
for all of us, because the children are our future.
absolutely.
Right?
Dr. Meredith, you've done a great job
Mm-hmm.
putting this together, and
Thank you.
you've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got to talk about, when depression comes, there's, for some, obviously it is severe. And how do we keep our teens safe with depression?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's, I think, harder now than ever to feel like you can keep your teen safe because even if you know where they are from a geographical sense, you don't always know where they are in terms of their online exploration.
Yeah.
And this is something that really scares me. We're doing some research right now in our emergency room at Boston Children's, where I work, where we're asking children who have suicidal ideation about how they have interacted online with others, about how they're feeling and their suicidal thoughts. And we found that the majority of them do turn now to social media platforms for information about depression and about suicide. And that, on the one hand, is encouraging because we know that they're reaching out for support, and sometimes they can get access to important sites like the suicide hotline, or just to friends and family that can provide support. But we also know that there are very specific rules for how we should be talking about suicide and talking about individuals who have died by suicide. And those have been studied very carefully. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has clear-cut guidelines, and news outlets are very good at following those for the most part. But social media platforms are not held to the same sort of standards. And honestly, it would be too hard to try to regulate these sites to keep up with that. And so the fear, right, is that you have teens now primarily turning to the digital world to understand their thoughts and their feelings about suicide. And they are encountering conversations out there and content out there that, while on one hand might provide support, it could also potentially worsen suicidal thoughts or expose them to thoughts about suicide that are potentially, we call it kind of contagion inducing, right? Kind of more likely to make them act on suicidal thinking. And so that's something that, we've been very worried about in psychiatry for especially the last decade. And so I'm both happy that we're doing the research now in this area, but I'm concerned about the findings because, we kind of suspected this was the case, but it's hard to know exactly how to tackle that. And I think
what is your best advice for parents today? What's your best advice?
So my best advice, honestly, until we can get to the point where maybe, fingers crossed, I know you can't see that, but fingers crossed, we can regulate the content on these platforms better, or faster anyways. I think we have to get to the point where parents who have a child with depression, as soon as they know that that child is struggling with depression, or even ideally years before that, that we talk to teenagers about content that's online, and we explain to them the risks in kind of looking at that content. And I know parents oftentimes are worried that, well, if I mention that the content's out there, they might go looking for it. And yes, that is absolutely a risk. But these teens that I'm seeing, they already know that content is out there. And it's important that they understand kind of the impact that some of the things that they're seeing could have on them, right? Like teens that maybe would look at kind of like in memoriam pages for individuals who have died by suicide. For a teenager, that could be incredibly attractive in a way, right? To see all these people pouring out such love for people who have died by suicide. And unfortunately, teens their brains aren't developed enough yet to really understand, you wouldn't be able to ever see that once you've passed on. Like that's not something that's not suicide is not the right answer in this case. That's not how you can get that love that you're missing right now. And so I think, unfortunately, until, again, we have better regulation on these platforms, a large part of it is going to be parents talking to their children about the influence of this content online. And also, if they know that their child has looked at this content, looking at their devices, having some sort of plan in place to on a regular basis, look to see whether they're accessing that content and how they're interacting with others about suicide online. I know certainly there are parents who would consider even putting on like a parental control app, which by all means, I think in this case, when you're considering the risk of suicide for a child, then that is warranted. Although certainly all these things, any kind of increased observation you have over your teen, does come with risk, right? That they choose to try to look for the content elsewhere, or stop engaging with you entirely, which is the exact opposite of what you want. And so it's kind of trying to find that balance between recognizing that they do still need that observation and that ongoing connection and discussion about what they're looking at, but we also don't want to be as taking their devices and smashing them all with sledgehammers, because then it increases the risk that they'll go try to find the content elsewhere and then not tell the parents. And that's really what you don't want, is the parents to think that their child isn't accessing that content, but the child actually is.
Well, we don't have much time left, and I wish we had more, and I'm glad that you cover it in the book, but we've got to mention self-harm. Cutting and other kinds of self-harming behavior. What do parents need to know, just very quickly about that, Dr. Meredith?
Similarly, there is a lot of content online also about self-injurious behavior, so that's something to be aware of. But I think at a bigger picture is a lot of parents think that this is a behavior a child might be engaging in sort of just to get attention, or just because they want something from the parents, almost in a manipulative sort of way.
Right.
And I try to help parents understand that yes, it is true your child is likely trying to tell you something by this action, but oftentimes it's because these teenagers can't express the emotions that they're feeling at that moment. They're so overwhelmed. They can't say, I'm just so angry right now, or I'm so ashamed. And then it turns to self-injurious behavior instead. And so trying to recognize that your child isn't not consciously trying to make your life harder or to manipulate you in a mean way, but more just they're trying to show you how distressed they are. They're just really struggling. And so trying to find better ways for them to express those feelings without turning to self-injurious behavior.
I tell you, we need another 3 or 4 hours for this conversation. And we will definitely have you back. In the meantime, folks, you can continue the conversation with Dr. Meredith Gansner, and I hope you will. The book is Teen Depression Gone Viral. Find it wherever you buy books. We'll be back here on Strategies for Living in just a moment. You're going to see the difference. When you go to Azalea Cleaners, you'll hear about it too. Azalea Cleaners has been fine dry cleaning since 1958, plus laundry, alterations and repairs, comforters, wedding gown cleaning and restoration. You'll hear about it from your friends because they'll see it too. They'll notice the Azalea difference. Azalea is convenient. 732 Azalea Drive, 9220 Ellerby Road, and 9227 Mansfield Road. Plus, the front door of your home or business with Azalea's delivery on demand. Just text SETUP to 249-8283, and Azalea will pick up your clothes and deliver them back clean and fresh to you. You can't get closer than that. That's the Azalea difference. You'll notice it right away. Others will too. The Azalea difference. Fine dry cleaning since 1958. Text SETUP to 249-8283 and get the Azalea difference. AzaleaCleaners.com.
Hi, this is Jay Merle for Pintail Roofing. Let's talk about quality. When you hire Pintail to build your roof, here's what you can expect. Quality and quality control are the most important concerns for us at Pintail, and you need to know that Pintail stands tall with swift and professional performance on any warranty call. This is our most important policy. And remember, we're your neighbors. We'll be here for you for the long haul. Our family's lived here for over 100 years, and we aren't going anywhere. On the commercial side of Pintail's business, our fluid-applied roofing solutions can save thousands of dollars over conventional commercial roofing options. Call Pintail at 226-ROOF for a free inspection of your home or commercial building. That's 226-7663. Pintail Roofing. What's the condition of your roof?
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for a Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan with Dr. Meredith Gansner today. Her book is Teen Depression Gone Viral. And we've only barely been able to scratch the surface, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered so much territory, and there's so much more to cover. But
Yeah.
Dr. Gansner, what would you leave listeners with? What would you want them to know from today?
I think two things. The first being that it is never too late to talk to your child about what they're seeing online and how that impacts them. And that especially holds true with depression. It's so important that parents ask their kids what they're accessing and what they're learning about in terms of their mood online, because so much of what they see online and their experiences that they have online, we know can be a big contributor to their mood. And then the second piece is that you're not alone, and there's not one way to do this, right? There's so many different ways and so many different paths to move forward. The most important thing, and I say this in the last chapter of the book, is that you just keep trying to move forward. And all you have to do is just help your kid try to move forward. And so definitely trying to allow parents to give themselves some grace, and that, this is not easy, and that it's going to take some time.
Very, very good advice. Dr. Meredith, thank you so much. I look forward to the next time you come back and join Lauren and I here on Strategies for Living.
Deeply appreciate your work on this topic.
Absolutely. In the meantime, folks, you continue the conversation by going and getting a copy of the book, Teen Depression Gone Viral, Dr. Meredith E. Gansner. Find it at your favorite bookseller. Folks, thank you for tuning into Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here with us. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Pintail Roofing, and Learning RX, and the Balanced Life Wellness Center, and Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of The Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, and some pretty good muffies too. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Dr. Meredith Gansner and for Lauren Leon McMillan, I'm David McMillan. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.